Good morning, everyone. Not quite afternoon yet, so. Riley, I know you probably want to wait a couple more minutes and if you had some folks from the media that you were waiting on, but I'm ready whenever you want to get started, bud.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait just another quick minute and then we'll get going.
Thanks.
All right, we'll get started. Good afternoon. It is officially in. Here to go the lights in here. 1 sec. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll start things off with the opening statement from Director of Athletics, Ryan Bamford, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Please use the raise hand function and I'll call on you to ask Ryan a question. Ryan, if you just want to start off with your opening statement and then we'll get going with questions.
Thanks, Riley. Thank you all for joining us. Thought Zoom might be the easiest and most appropriate opportunity here to just get in front of you here at lunchtime. Just from an opening standpoint, obviously after 5 years under Coach McCall, I think our competitive results certainly indicated that we needed to be better. We needed to look to make a change so that we can turn the corner and be more competitive in the Atlantic 10, give ourselves a chance here at the University of Massachusetts for championships. Everything that Coach McCall has done in his 5 years off the court, the work in academics, the work in recruiting, the work in the citizenry of our young men, and all of those things are very positive. But ultimately, we're in the business of winning, and it's very important that we build a program that our community, everyone associated with the university that's come before us and will come after us, feels great pride in this basketball program as they have in our history. And so I think this is an extremely important point of time for our basketball program, and certainly an important hire for that reason. And I think we have every opportunity to be great. And it's my goal to make sure that I steward not only the next leader of this program to this university, get them prepared to lead, but give them every opportunity and every resource available to win. And that's something that I think we've done a better job of in recent time. And this job, I think, in a number of ways from where it was 5 years ago when we went to search, looks different. It feels different. Our ability to compete at a high level in this league is different. And I think that in a positive way, we're going to be able to attract candidates and ultimately land a successful candidate that will have things that they need to win. And I think that comes not only from my chair, but the institution, this university. Basketball is very, very important to the University of Massachusetts. We've proven that we can do it in so many other sports. And unfortunately, basketball has been up and down over the last 20 or so years here. And it's time to get it. It's time to get it right. It's time to get this program competitive, competing for championships and sustaining that success over a long period of time.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. We'll open the floor for questions. We'll get started. Kyle, you can go ahead.
I guess the obvious place to start is what made this the time to make this decision? Because I know previously it's been something that's waited till the end of the season. And so I guess why this specific timing?
Yeah, the timing associated with everything going down yesterday, there's just been, as you would anticipate, and you all follow the program, at varying times or varying levels. There's been a lot of pressure and stress, and I think anxiety built up in our building, in the Champion Center, our team, our coaches, our staff, our fan base. We all want to win, and the results have been mixed, and I think that people have felt that. And I thought it was, I just thought it was the right time to say to everyone, look, we've got to hit a release valve on this, pressure valve on this program right now, and just everybody needs to understand that that ultimately we're making a change. We're going to go forward and try to find our next leader. Timing's, and if you can wait till the end of the season, that's what you would prefer to do. One of the benefits here, I just thought, was relieving some of that pressure right now as we finish out the regular season and get prepared to go to DC next week. I thought that happened yesterday when we made the change, made the announcement. Matt will be with us, staying in as our head coach for now through the end of the year. That's the plan. Appreciate Matt's willingness and wanting to see this through. That certainly was a desire of mine as well. And this, I don't care what anybody says. There's no easy way to do these. Make these transitions. These decisions like this impact lives. Certainly it's not easy, but we're in a business, and this is something that we take very seriously. And ultimately, I have an obligation to try to get this corrected and try to get our program moving in a positive direction moving forward. And the timing, I think, not only allows us to take that pressure away from those around the program, but also, I needed to start having conversations outside of this building around what's next. And I have a great relationship with Matt, and I felt like I needed to be honest with him to say, Matt, I need to start having conversations with agents and others to prepare our basketball program for what's next. And I wanted him to hear that from me and not hear it from other people before I had made a public declaration that we were going to make a change. And so I had that conversation with Matt yesterday, and we agreed that it was in the best interest to make the announcement and to move forward publicly in the way that we did.
Frederick, go ahead.
Given the inconsistency sort of this program the last few years, and especially this year with just the ups and downs of wins and losses, how early on was this a consideration for the decision that you made yesterday?
I think we all kind of looked at this year as a very important year 5 of Matt's tenure. After last year, a really strange year with COVID, only playing, I think we played 15 maybe regular season games or something thereabouts. And so half of our schedule, I think we were the 5th seed in the A10 tournament, won a game, then lost in the next round. For us, I felt like we had built some things that needed to allow us to take a next step. Matt agreed prior to the year. Really, this last month, I thought we had some real good competitive opportunities to move our program forward, and we just didn't take advantage of those. And so really until through the month of February and into obviously yesterday being March 1st, I was hopeful that we were going to be able to collect wins, that we were going to be able to get momentum. I think our longest winning streak this year is like 3 games dating back to November. And so we just had so many stops and starts here as we turn the calendar to 2022. That level of consistency was not there. And I think everybody around the program felt it. And I felt like the timing was good, but I didn't get there until recently because I was really hopeful that we'd be able to string together a number of wins at any point to which we could gain some momentum. We've been able to do that at times in Matt's tenure. I actually thought we were playing really good basketball in 2020 when COVID hit us, right as we were taking the court to play VCU in the tournament. I think we had won a handful of games down the stretch. We lost a really tough one to URI at home in our last home game of the year, a game that I thought was an indication of how well we were playing. We played Dayton tough, who was, second or third ranked in the nation at the time. So I thought we had a chance to do some things in the tournament. COVID hits. The momentum around the program then was certainly different than it feels 2 years later. And so I thought this was certainly the opportunity that we needed to make the opportunity to make a change here. I thought was upon us.
Nathan, go ahead.
With the Don Brown hire, we saw a pretty substantial increase in compensation for the coaching staff across the board. Would you foresee a similar kind of reevaluation as you prepare to make the next hire moving forward?
I think we've looked at every resource expenditure that we make, and obviously arguably your biggest one and most important one is your human resource expenditure. So yes, I think you can anticipate that we have the ability to go beyond where we've gone in head coaching and coaching pool salaries for our assistants and support staff beyond where we've been in the past. I wouldn't put an exact number on what that's going to be, but it could be significantly higher if we want it to, if it makes sense for us to do that. We're not going to spend foolishly. We're going to be good stewards of the resources we have, but we've organized ourselves in a way, just like we did in football, that we're not going to miss because of resources. I want to make sure that we're making the right hire. We're supporting our head coach with people around them, people around him that will have the ability to help this program move forward. And I don't want, money to be an impediment there. Obviously, we're not going to pay in millions and millions and millions of dollars. But we're going to be responsible, and we're going to get ourselves in that realm. We're going to be, I believe, in the top 4 or 5 in this league. When you look at Dayton and VCU and St. Louis, I think those 3 carry sort of the day from a financial and investment perspective. I don't think there's any reason why we can't be right there, right behind them in terms of our commitment from a resource perspective in this program. So that is very, very important. I think just like in the sport of football, attracting Coach Brown, I think you've seen what the salary pool has allowed Coach Brown to do in football, and we've brought some really quality coaches to his staff. I think we can do the same thing in basketball, and we're prepared to do that.
Joey?
You mentioned how UMass is a different team now in comparison to 5 years ago. So what does that mean in terms of the hiring process, and how will that change due to the way that you feel the program of basketball has changed?
Yeah, I guess maybe not the team is different. In my comments earlier, Joe, I wasn't maybe referencing that. It was more of we've got ourselves organized and positioned. When I referenced the resources just now, we're positioned, I think, to not only attract a quality of candidate, but ultimately land a quality of candidate that maybe we weren't able to 5 years ago. And that's no knock on who we were discussing this opportunity with, or ultimately hiring Coach McCall, but there were some restrictions on what we could pay 5 years ago. We owe Coach McCall a little bit of a buyout here that will get organized. I'm not worried about that at all. That's not gonna detract from our ability to land our next head coach. And we're gonna be able to increase the salary, increase our ability to recruit, the way that we travel, the way that we do things in this basketball program is going to be at a high level. And so I just think maybe that's the benefit of being here 7 years as the AD. I didn't have maybe as much of that ability to do that in my first 2 years when we made the change back in 2017. But I can tell you that in that way, the things that I'm able to give this next head coach, attract the next head coach, and then give the next head coach is different in a really positive way. And I think it'll allow us to make a a quick step forward. The other piece that's undoubtedly, I said this in football when we made the change, the transfer portal and the transfer legislation, that you don't have to rebuild a program in basketball in 3 or 4 years. There's no reason why we can't build it now and quickly and immediately. And I want to do it the right way. I want to do it with the right people. But we're going to have the ability, and we've got a number of fifth-year kids that are rolling off from a scholarship perspective. This next coach will have a handful to maybe more scholarships to be able to rebuild this roster quickly, and do so in a way through the transfer market, potentially through scholastic recruiting, through high school kids and AAU grassroots programs and other ways that we can develop this program and get it to where we want to much quicker than certainly than we could 5 years ago. Matt took 4 transfers his first year, and they all had to sit that first year. They couldn't play until his second year. And we really didn't know what we had until the end of year 2 with those young men. And so I think the world has changed considerably in that way. And I think it's going to be a benefit to us in a number of ways. And I think we're looking for the next head coach to come in and tell us exactly what that's going to mean for this institution and our program, and how they're going to rebuild using what's available in the landscape of college basketball right now.
Howard, go ahead.
Hey, Ryan, 2-part question. First of all, will you use a search firm? And if so, which one? And what are you specifically looking for? Are you looking more for a current head coach or an assistant coach, or how do you view that?
Yeah, we'll use a search firm. We're going to use Turnkey Search. Chad Chatlos and Katie Stout will be 2 search consultants. They will organize a lot of what we do operationally and a number of just the back of house conversations and things. I think I've said this before, when we've used search firms as a public institution, I think it's really important for us to make sure that we're protecting the privacy of the candidates that want to be involved in our job. And I want to make sure that we're we're meeting those obligations. And, but I also want to make sure that I'm meeting any obligation I have from a public record standpoint. So I think having a search firm gives us that ability and that cover. This isn't a search firm's hire. This is Ryan Bamford's hire, along with our chancellor and other important people around this program that I'm going to have dialogue with. But the search firm will help us organize things, organize conversations, schedule those types of things for us. So Chad and Katie will help us in that regard, help me in that regard. Howard, the second part of your question, I forgot. I'm sorry.
What kind of coach are you looking for?
Oh, yeah.
A head coach or an assistant coach, or how do you view this?
I'm not married to, I'm open. I'm not married to anything. I'm not married to any one track, any piece of experience. I think it's important to have it would be, I think, disingenuous to say that some level of head coaching experience wouldn't be valuable. I think our league is a really well-coached league, a really good basketball-centric league. We've been a multi-bid league for years now. And I do want somebody that's got coaching chops that can come in and not be overwhelmed by the competitiveness of our league. But that doesn't mean that we're going to talk to those that are head coaches that have head coaching experience, and we will talk to some assistant coaches as well. But I'm open and know there are certain characteristics that I think are important. The aspect of recruiting, the ability to recruit, the ability to connect, the ability. I think Northeast connections and ties are going to be very important here. It's not that I didn't place a premium on those 5 years ago, but I certainly think that we're at a point now, and this program, and with where I think we need to go, I think that's an important ingredient in our next head coach. I really do. So I think that's going to be something that we need to be mindful of as we go to search.
Jill, go ahead. You're a little quiet. You're a little quiet, Jill.
I don't know if I.
Is that
We-
any better?
Yeah, we can hear you a little bit.
Jill.
Thanks. What exactly, or when exactly, if you know, is Matt McCall's termination date? And can you say how that is connected to how much you'll be paying, that UMass will be paying him out in his contract?
Jill, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything from, you want to put it, can you put it in the chat and I'll see if I can.
She asked when
Yeah,
his
yeah.
termination date was and how that affects his buyout.
Sorry, when Matt's termination date was?
Yep.
Okay, Matt's, that's to be determined because right now we've got him coaching. The plan is to have him coaching through the end of the season, so don't know when that will conclude. His contract year ends on March 28th and begins again on March 29th, and he's got one more year left on his contract. So TBD on the exact date of the termination. I will work through that with Matt and his counsel and his agent, and what that looks like as he transitions from the university.
Sorry, can you hear me now? I
can, yeah.
Great. So sorry about that. So knowing that that's a date to come, can you say more about how that date is specific to his contract, that there seems to be a day difference where he's going to be paid out quite a bit more or quite a bit less?
Yeah, he's owed 100% of the remaining value in this year, in year 5 of his contract. So that doesn't change whether we make a change now or up through March 28th. If we do make a change on the 28th or through the 28th, I should say, he's only owed 75% of the remaining value in his last year of his contract. If we made the change March 29th or later, he'd be owed 100% of that. So the change will come effectively before March 28th. I just don't know the exact date and what that will mean. That doesn't really change the only thing that would change from a financial standpoint would just be what we pay him for vacation days, but that's it. From a contract standpoint, it doesn't change any of the financials.
Great. Matt, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was next up. Ryan, what have you learned over the course of, you mentioned being here 7 years. You've done a few of these searches. Some of them have worked out well, some of them not the way you'd hoped when you hired them. What have you learned about the type of coach it takes to succeed at UMass, and what have you learned about the process that is going to help you hire a better candidate?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. I mean, I could probably go on for a while on this with an answer for you, but I think there's a number of things, and I would just tell you every sport is a little bit different. I'd be the first one. I think our fan base would say, boy, hire the Greg Carvel of men's basketball and we're going to be great. Well, ice hockey, as you all know, is very different world and a very different landscape. And the search in ice hockey and the search in football and the search in women's basketball and other Olympic sports and men's basketball, all very different. I think what I've learned about this institution and about our fan base and especially about this job in men's basketball, there's no reason why we shouldn't be relevant. And maybe, and I'll put this, I'm the buck stops here. Ultimately, whether we have success or not depends a lot on what this hire is going to be. And the resources we're going to be able to provide to this person. I think authenticity, is important. I think having somebody that can be a connector, not only with young people, can connect to this community, that can connect to our campus, can connect to alums, to people who want to invest in support in the university. I think that's important. I think one of the real important factors, and I just mentioned it, is regionality. I think in basketball, especially, in football to some extent, but in basketball especially, having connections with AAU grassroots programs, prep schools in this New England region, high school coaches, people in this area is very important to this role. And maybe I didn't put that premium on that 5 years ago. I certainly, in talking to people in and around college basketball and in and around our league and this job in particular, that's something I continue to hear. And so that will be very important as we go to search to make sure that that piece of the fit is paramount.
Given the driver that men's basketball has been in your athletic department for really a long time, how important is it to get it right on this one to get things going, not just for basketball specifically, but for the department in general? The department has historically run better when basketball is good.
Matt, I think it's very important. I think the ability, the uptick that we would see with basketball success from a fundraising standpoint, a ticket revenue standpoint, all of the tangential things that will come because of success in basketball. If we go to the tournament, the shares that you get from the NCAA, all of those things will allow us to continue to invest in the program at a high level. It's what Dayton and VCU and others have been able to do in this league. And it's the reason why they've been able to sustain a higher level of success. That's really important to us. You know, I'm proud of the fact that we've gone from $34.5 million to $41 million in our budget in my 7 years, almost $7 million increase over 7 years. That's taken a lot of hard work. And that's been in the absence of success, sustained success in basketball or football. If we get those two programs going and now you start to see turnstiles turning and people coming to the games and all of the ways that will benefit us financially and benefit and get people excited about what we're doing in our athletics department, just like Carvey's been able to do in hockey and to an extent Tori's been able to do in women's basketball. And at times we've been able to do in football and men's basketball. That's going to have unbelievable longevity in terms of building these two programs back up specifically. Basketball, when it's going well at this place, and I don't think our fans I think they're waiting to see if we can be good, they're going to come back. And I think you guys have been covering, a number of you, Matt, certainly you, and Howard, you as well, been covering this program for a number of years, probably feel the same way. If we build a winning program, people are going to come back and they're going to invest and they're going to want to be part of this. They haven't left, and it's incumbent upon us to get them re-engaged and get them back involved, and that will be a huge catalyst in us trying to continue to invest heavily to make sure we sustain that success.
Kyle, go ahead.
Are you concerned at all that something like this can be a distraction for the players down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, you take into consideration that. I think the sort of thought around our program the last couple of weeks has been, it's been a stressful environment. I think that's been weighing on everyone associated with the program. So again, yesterday's news, I hope, delivered a little bit of just relief of like, okay, let's just refocus, let's reset. Got a couple games left in our regular season. Again, the timing, it's not ever going to be perfect, but we'll see. I hope our kids coalesce and want to play hard together, want to win games here down the stretch, want to play for this name on the front of their jersey, which is important to us, and represent the Commonwealth. So I'm hopeful that starts tonight against Fordham and carries over to Mason on Saturday and carries into DC when we get there next week when we play in the A-10 tournament.
Michael?
Recently in the program, you guys have had a lot of high profile events. Back in, I guess, September, you guys had the big Hall of Fame / statue revealing. And then as recently as like last weekend or the weekend before, you had the Marcus Camby Day. Being around a lot of high profile stakeholders in the program, was there some feedback that you were able to get from some of those higher, I guess, type of profile investors in the program about the direction, and I guess from that feedback, that influence maybe some of the decision making going forward?
No, I think, one of the goals of trying to, administrate and lead our program and in our department is, making sure that I have a finger on the pulse of where people are. And I think everybody, and Matt included, but all of the stakeholders, whether they be former players or alums of this university or folks who have invested in our department or our basketball program, or fans or ticket holders, I think everybody felt like this was a really important year for us in the movement to get our basketball program back to competitiveness. And so no, Michael, I didn't have any direct conversations at that point. I think, making sure that we're recognizing our history, and that was a really important thing that we did in September, making sure that we brought back people who have been such an integral part of this basketball, built the foundation of this program. That's important, whether we're where we are right now as our basketball program or we're winning national championships as a basketball program. I think that the opportunity to do that's always going to be important. But it's been, I've been very transparent about our desire to be great and certainly to make sure that we're being better now than we've been in the last, few years that I've been here. And, since we went to the Final Four in 1996, 25 or so years ago now, we've been a pretty average to maybe at times above average, at times below average, but pretty average program. And there's been some level of success here and there, and there's been some dips here and there. We've got to be better. We've got to be better. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's no reason why we can't be. And I am squarely focused on that charge. And, as a leader of the department, I take great pride in not only building our programs to be competitively successful, but doing all the other things that go along with a competitively successful program. And we're going to attack this. We're going to attack it with everything we have. And this is a really important step in the future of UMass men's basketball.
Hey, Frederick, go ahead.
So you mentioned this program and wanting it to be relevant again. What are the consistent goals that you see as being realistic for the coming years for the next head coach?
Yeah, I think in order to be relevant in our league, I think you got to be in the top 5. We're going to add Loyola next year to our league on July 1st, excuse me. Loyola right now is, probably an NCAA tournament team sitting in a different league. I think with them being the 15th team in our league when they come in July, you got to be in the top third of this league once they come in. You got to be in the top 5. And, I don't think that's an easy thing to do. I'm not suggesting it is, but I think that gets you in a national conversation, right now, between Davidson, VCU, Dayton, St. Bonaventure, St. Louis, those 5 right now, whether it be NCAA tournament, probably NIT for some of them, that gives you good postseason access. And, our goal always is to be in the NCAA tournament. We haven't been able to be as competitively successful as those 5 programs in the last 10 years. We've got to be there. We've got to be there. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be. So that's the goal, is to be in that top 5 conversation. When Loyola joins, Loyola went to the Final Four a handful of years ago. And they've been to the tournament, a number of times in the last 10 years. That's now a peer. And that's now we're going to figure out how we can compete with Loyola, right? You add them to the mix. So we're a multi-bid league. We have been. I think the league is, it's kind of been a funny year this year. I think coming out of COVID, there's some things that have happened. We've had some transfers in and out. It's just been a little bit of a strange year in college basketball. I hope that we get multiple teams into the tournament. I certainly think Our basketball league is really strong historically. And I think we do have at least 2 tournament teams in our league right now. And maybe we'll see what happens in the tournament next week. But we need to be in the top 5. That I think is a realistic goal. And if you're in the top 5, then you are going to be in the conversation. If you look at historically in our league, if you're in the top 5 every year, come mid-February to end of February, you are in an NCAA tournament conversation. That's where we need to be as you wind down the regular season and get ready for the conference tournament.
Nathan, go ahead.
I have a two-part question. First and foremost, I know this process is just getting underway, but do you have an approximate time frame for when you would hope to announce the next hire? And secondly, knowing how engaged in an online sense the UMass fan base community is there any sort of not accountability, but any sort of steps for communication that you're hoping to undertake in the next couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of people reach out to me. I'll take the second part first. I've had a number of people reach out by email. I haven't checked Twitter in 24 hours or more. I'm sure I've got a lot of mentions there that I'd have to sort through, but I always, people want to call. I mean, I think I've been pretty open to feedback, good, bad, and different. There will be people associated with our program that I have either already reached out to, will reach out to make sure I'm bending their ear about what we need to be doing here, hearing from them. I'm open to suggestions, engagement, those sorts of things. I don't know that there'll be any formal format for that. If our fan base wants to provide feedback, I do get a lot by email, and certainly I'll be at our game tonight. I'm certainly willing to hear it in whatever avenue it might come down to me. In terms of the timeline, I've said this before, you can't script searches. You just, we're going to work diligently now that we've made the announcement. We're going to work hard to make sure that we understand who's interested in us, who we may be interested, have, sort through that first and foremost. When, every conversation you have with every candidate is going to be a little bit different in terms of the timeline, because there's going to be coaching candidates that will be playing, that will continue to be in their season. I want to be respectful of that, but I also want to move our search forward. So we have to make sure that we're, kind of negotiating that piece of the timeline. Generally speaking, just, sometime before the end of the college basketball season. So the Final Four is in early April. Generally, I mean, based on the fact that we've opened as, with a week to go here in the regular season, I anticipate that certainly before the end of the month, we'll have a pretty good idea of what direction we're going to go. But I don't put a date on, hey, we have to have the search completed and somebody announced by this date. You're not going to hear me say that.
Joey, go ahead.
You talked about the importance of regionality just before. So what does that mean for potential head coaching candidates that you're looking at that don't have that regionality? Is that just something you're not going to be looking at all, or are they just going to have a higher set of skills or a better background in other areas?
I think regionality is going to be important as the totality of our staff, not just the head coach, but who's the head coach surrounding themselves with, and the ability to have a connection to this region, especially in the recruiting realm. So I'm not going to limit our head coaching search to just those that have, Northeast ties or something thereabouts. But I think, a plan for how important recruiting in this region is going to be, I think is going to be an important ingredient for whomever may ultimately win this job. So I want to play that up, because I think that's an important piece. But not just the head coach. I think how they build the staff, how thoughtful they are about who they bring to their staff, and how they're going to be able to make us better. and again, have that connection in some regard to, recruiting, the relationships. College basketball and recruiting is really about relationships. It's about experience and making sure that you can use those relationships to improve our roster and ultimately have a group of young men in that locker room that will allow us to go win games.
Great. All right, guys, we have time for one more question. We're running a little short on time, so we'll let Pedro go and then we'll wrap up.
Hi, Ryan. Are you looking into continuing sort of this young up and coming head coach experiment, or are you looking to tap into experience more as you search for candidates?
Yeah, Pedro, good question. I don't know that I would claim it was an experiment. I would say that I'm looking for folks that are gonna again go back and engage not only the young men in our program in the recruiting process, but engage our community, make sure that they're being sort of a Pied Piper for UMass basketball, engaging this Commonwealth. When we've had success here, it's been with really strong community ties, engagement, people wanting to be part of it, be invested in it. I think we've really got that in hockey right now. We've got that in women's basketball. Tori's done a really good job of doing that. We've done it. We're starting to do it again now in football with Coach Brown. I think that's going to be important here. There has to be that marriage, that connection. So I think more than anything, age is never it's never a part of my hiring procedure or practice. That I look at somebody that can come in and be fully engaged in the entirety of what this job entails, and especially making sure that they can market our program, be a connector in the community, and ultimately that leads to people wanting to be part of what we're building and feel like they're part of that success when we have it. And I think that we've been able to do that in other programs. That's certainly what I'm looking to do in basketball.
Awesome. Anything else, Ryan, before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate the coverage. Everyone, thank you, and for making some time here for 40 minutes. And I look forward when I won't have any other media availability until we come to the conclusion of our search, and we'll do a press conference, and I hope to see you all there. And pandemic provided, we can do it safely. And again, I appreciate your time today and the coverage of our program. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.